والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. This is our new lesson on our commentary on السياسة الشرعية في إصلاح الرعية والرعية by شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تبارك وتعالى. التوظيف لمنع المظالم. Talking last time about the payments according to the Islamic the payments in the Islamic states according to the Sharia. So very, very important in our lives. And that if we understand them, we will gain a lot from what we're studying. Alaykum as-salam wa barakatuh. It says here, التوظيف لمنع المظالم أو تخفيفها أو خوف دخول المفسدين أو التوظف لأنه لا يجد إلا مثل هذه الوظائف. An employee unjust acts or other corrupted people won't be there, or because you don't find any work except that work. Many people come to us and ask us things like this. Are we allowed to work so and so? I can't find any work, any job except in the place so and so, and stuff like that. Is there a specific answer for everybody, or it differs from somebody to another? It differs. So let us see what does the Shaykh say about this. It says, وَالْمُعِينُ عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ من أعان الظالم على ظلمه أما من أعان المظلوم على تخفيف الظلم عنه أو أعان أو على أداء المظلمة فهو وكيل المظلوم لا وكيل الظالم. Anybody or false acts or any unjust person to complete doing his unjust acts, he is one of his helpers. That means he's unjust increase that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. So he's one of the unjust people. I said that on the other side, if somebody job only to decrease unjust acts, or false acts or sins like that, to increase, actually he's doing something good. The lawyer helps unjust people to take their rights. So this guy is like the lawyer that is helping people to take their rights, not helping the unjust people to increase their unjust acts. Did you get the idea that I want to say? And this has a lot of faces. Lots of faces. Many people, it says here, بمنزلة الذي يقرضه الذي يتوكل في حمل المال له إلى الظالم. Somebody that asks people to give him a kind of tax that is unfair. So if somebody doesn't have the money and you loan him the money so that he can just go and pay that guy, did you help him or you were against him? You helped him because he's going to pay the money and he doesn't have any place to get the money from. So you're helping him to decrease his calamity. So when you enter any job, but with an intention, and you have the force and the power to increase or decrease the unjust acts, you are doing something good. You're not doing something bad. Now this needs a lot of patience and needs a real intention, a true intention to fulfill what you want, and needs a strong personality to fulfill what you want to do. Many people claim that they are trying to decrease bad things and bad acts, but when they go, they start joining these unjust people, and they start doing what they are doing, and they start changing their own opinions that they used to say. You know, many people used to condemn lots of acts. When they get employed in a work or a job or stuff like that, or they get hired or somewhere, they start doing the same acts and they start justifying their acts. So these are wrongdoers. They're not good guys. What job is it? For example, taxes. And instead of asking people to pay 100, you're asking them, for example, to pay 50. So are you a wrongdoer, or you're doing something that is good? Because they're going to pay. You can't prevent people from paying, but you decreased it. So therefore, what you're doing is a good thing. This is what the Shaykh is trying to say, and this is what he always keeps on saying. Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah, to filter all evil things, to change it to become less evil. He doesn't ask us to keep on negative, not doing anything. And this is the same opinion of, okay, I'm going to say something right now, but maybe some people would not accept it or misunderstand it, but I'll try to clarify it. Now there are some scholars that say, are we allowed to, for example, participate in a government that doesn't practice Islam, so that we can decrease the un-Islamic acts and try to improve Islamic things, or stop un-Islamic rules or stuff like that? Are we allowed to do that? They say, if you are really, according to a study that you did, are gonna increase or decrease evil acts or evil laws or un-Islamic laws or stuff like that, and increase Islamic things, therefore you are now doing something good. You can't say that who is doing this is part of Taghut and he's a nasty guy, he's even a kafir, except, no, that's wrong. And you find that the majority who go there are becoming part of the system, and they are starting to change even their opinions and change even what they used to ask people to do. And a lot of these things, like what's happening a lot in several places, you find a lot of people used to say that we're going to go and join some un-Islamic governments or stuff like that to increase Islam and decrease evil. But what happens? They start modifying their opinions and modifying their doctrines, and what happens? What happens that they get modified and they don't change the situation. So in this case, we say they're not allowed to participate in this case. So this needs a real study and a real intention and a real faith in what you're doing. And if you see that you're not doing anything, you have to stop it immediately. Sheikh here, Ibn Uthaymeen, in his commentary, gave lots of examples of this. Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah here, إذا طلب ظالم منه مالا فاجتهد في دفع ذلك بمال أقل منه إليه أو إلى غيره بعد الاجتهاد التام في الدفع ومحسن ومع المحسنين سبيل. For orphans' money, or he is responsible for endowments, so he's responsible for that money. But if a nasty governor asked him to give some money that is unfair and that is not official, so he has to pay that money. So he made his best to decrease the payments and went and hired somebody to make some accountings that would make that less than he's asking him to pay, or he even can corrupt him so that the money can be less than what he's asking for, because it's all unfair. So in this case, he's doing something good. He's not doing something bad. Best to make that, and he did ijtihad. That means he made a big effort by strategies and studies to make evil less than it was going to be. So in this case, he is doing something good and he's not doing something bad. Okay? Did you get this idea? Are you with me, guys? In anything, and scholars derive it from the story of Najashi, the Negasi, the king of Abyssinia, because the king of Abyssinia, he could have just post and went immigrating to the Prophet ﷺ and forgot about his post. But what he did was beneficial for Islam. What he did was beneficial for Muslims. He welcomed Muslims in his country, and he hosted them, and he protected them from anybody the Prophet ﷺ agreed about all what he did, and he even, when he died, the Prophet ﷺ prayed on his soul. He prayed Salat al-Jannah as a federal prayer on his soul. So that means that what the Negasi did was something good. And Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah has a long fatwa about that, which is very important to balance any of your acts in your life. The Shaykh is carrying on in these things, which are very important. Now, this can be even, gave another example. وَكَذَلِكَ وَكِيلُ الْمَالِكِ مِنَ الْمُنَادِينَ والكتاب وغيرهم الذي يتوكل لهم في العقد والقبض ودفع ما يطلب منهم لا يتوكل للظالمين في الأخذ وكذلك لو وضعت مظلمة على أهل قرية who is a spokesman, not a spokesman, how do you say, somebody who deals with other people's stuff. He's things that you have to do. How do you call that? Wakil. What is wakil? I had the word and I forgot it. Somebody who is representative of people who to give things, or people these writers and others that have to make some transactions, that have to take money or pay money or stuff like that. So when he goes to give the payments or to take the payments or stuff like that, he tries his best to make it according to the Islamic law. But if he can't, at least he tries his best to make it less than than they ask or they demand for. So he's trying to make evil less than it is, and he's trying to make good things big as he can. He's making an effort to do that. So in this case, is he a representative with wrongdoers, or he is representative with representative of people who are abused? He is representative to the abused people in this case, because he's now defending abused people, not defending the wrongdoers. Did you get the idea, guys? I'm trying to reach the idea that the Sheikh is given here, and sometimes the words are not helping me to get the idea that I want to show you. وكذلك لو قرية كذلك لو وضعت منظمة على قرية على أهل القرية أو درب أو سوق أو مدينة، فتوسط رجل محسن الدفع عنهم بغاية الإمكان وقسطها بينهم على قدر طاقتهم من غير محاباة النفس ولا الغير ولا الارتشاء، بل توكل لهم في الدفع عنهم والإعطاء، كان محسنا. لكن الغالب أن من يدخل في ذلك يكون وكيل الظالمين، محاميا مرتشيا مغفرا لمن يريد وآخذا ممن يريد، وهذا من أكبر الظلمة الذين يحشرون في توابيت من نار هم وأعوانهم ثم يقذفون في النار. It says it's like, for example, if the government, not an unfair government, made a big tax on a city or a village or a park, not a park, or a market, and somebody comes and says, okay guys, look, I'm going to help you decrease these payments. For example, instead of taking it all of a sudden, we'll make it in a long term, and we will distribute it on everybody, so nobody can feel that the payment is very heavy on him. So in this case, he says this guy actually is a representative of these guys, not representative of the one who wants the payments, because he's helping them. He's softening the payments, although the payments are unfair, and he's helping to get those payments, but he's helping to get those payments in a way that doesn't harm people or doesn't make them suffer more. It makes them suffer less. But the Sheikh says here, the problem is a lot of people who are intersectors or intermediaries between these wrongdoers and the village or the market or the people that they have to give the payment. He intersects by, or he intercedes by some payments for his own interest, and he becomes part of the wrongdoing acts. So these guys who are like this are corrupted people that deserve to be in. He says even they are one of the greatest wrongdoers that would be resurrected in the judgment day in a box of hellfire, and all of them and their helpers will be thrown to hellfire. Allah al-afiyatu wassalam. وأما المصارف, now the payments, فالواجب أن يبتدئ في القسمة بالأهم فالأهم مصالح المسلمين العامة كعطاء من يحصل للمسلمين به منفعة عامة إنهم المقاتلة الذين هم أهل النصرة والجهاد وهم أحق الناس بالفيء فإنه لا يحصل إلا بهم حتى اختلف الفقهاء في مال الفيء هل هو مختص بهم أو مشترك في جميع المصالح وأما سائر الأموال السلطانية في جميع المصالح وفاقا إلا ما خص به نوع كالصدقات والمغنم والمستحقين ذوي الولايات والعلماء والسعاة على المال جمعا وحفظا وقسمة نحو ذلك حتى أئمة الصلاة والمؤذنين ونحو ذلك. What are the payments? He has to start. He says the governor, the lawyer, the president, or any responsible person the important people and the less important people. So he starts with all things that have to do with all Muslims benefit. So there are some the militant people who are defending the whole states. These are the first people that have to take their money that comes from the fate which we mentioned, which is the booty that is taken from the enemy without fighting. Why? Because that wouldn't happen unless except by these guys. The enemy didn't escape except because he was afraid of these fighters, these militant people. Okay? This is one. Scholars have several opinions about the money of the fate. Is it only for these guys? The money of the fate. Is it only for these guys who fight? Or it's for all what Muslims benefit from? That means it's part of the treasury that we can make with anything, even build roads and houses and bridges and stuff like that for the benefit of all Muslims, and hospitals and masajid, mosques and stuff like that. And like other things that we mentioned before are for all what Muslims need, even payments of the employees, even payments and stuff like that, everything. It's part of the treasury. It's part of the treasury of the state. The charities that have their own places where we pay them in, because zakat and stuff, it has its own things that we pay the zakat in. Al-Ghanima, Al-Maghnam, it has its own things that we pay it in. The lawyers, the governors, the judges, the scholars that keep on giving lectures and stuff like that, the ones that go and gather the money, the employees that gather the money, all these are part of, even the imams in the masajid, the ones that raise up the adhans, all these guys are part of the citizens and employees of the state that need to get paid. وكذا صرفه في الأثمان والأجور لما يعم نفعه من سداد الثغور بالكراع والسلاح وعمارة ما يحتاج إلى عمارته من طرقات الناس كالجسور والقناطر وطرقات المياه. It says all the payments that we need to, like building the buildings, buying fixing all the roads and routes and stuff like that, fixing all the bridges that are on the rivers or stuff like that or whatever, and fixing all the places of the water, where the water passes on, or the rivers, and all these things that have to do in the whole country. Buildings that people need, and houses, and all these things. ومن المستحقين ذوي الحاجات فإن الفقهاء قد اختلفوا هل يقدمون في غير الصدقات من الفيء ونحوه على غيرهم على قولين في مذهب أحمد وغيره. So some of these people who need money, like the poor guys, the orphans, the needies, all these guys, are they preferred? Scholars have two opinions. Are they preferred charities like the faith? Are preferred. إنما الصدقات الفقراء المساكين. These are for the people who need, or for the charity. واعلموا أن ما غنمتم من شيء فأن لله خمسه. لا ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين. Who are preferred? Who he started by لله والرسول. Everything is for Allah. So scholars say that Allah started by mentioning His name only for glory, or else everything is for Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, he doesn't exist anymore, ﷺ, so his money is part of the payments. وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى, the family, poor guys and needy. وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ, people. So that everything has to have Muslims benefit from. So these are two opinions according to the Hanbalis and other scholars. Sheikh mentions the Hanbalis because he's Hanbali, but it's not only in the Hanbali. He says Hanbalis and others. And others said no. ومنهم من قال يقدمون ومنهم من قال المال. والصحيح أنهم يقدمون فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقدم ذوي الحاجات كما قدموا في مال بني النضير. The most accepted opinion that the needies are preferred than others. Why? Because others have other payments, but the needies don't have. Poor guys and needies don't have money, so you have to prefer them than others until you finish. You solve their problems, and then you go on solving other problems, okay? And this is what the Prophet ﷺ did when he took the money of Bani Nadir, this Jewish tribe that rebelled against the Prophet ﷺ. So he kicked them out of Medina, and he took all their property as fate. And the Surah Al-Hashr, Bani Nadir. You know that. All what happened in Surah Al-Hashr, it's about Bani Nadir. And even the verse that talks about fate, it's in Surah Al-Hashr. So it's talking about Bani Nadir when they ran away and they left all their booties and stuff, all their properties that they couldn't put over their animals and camels and stuff like that. So it was left for Muslims. So the Prophet ﷺ gave it, and gave it to Muslims, and he started by the needies. And that's what Umar did as well. Umar says, ليس أحد أحق بهذا المال من أحد إنما هو الرجل وسابقته والرجل وغناؤه والرجل وبلاؤه والرجل وحاجته فجعلهم عمر رضي الله عنه أربعة أقسام. Umar says that nobody's preferred the other in this money. It's all for Muslims. But Muslim that was before others, he was one of the old Muslims, or Muslim that gives a lot of effort for Islam, or Muslim that does very good things for Muslims, or Muslim that is needy, he doesn't have money. So Umar said, divided them to four categories. The first categories are the ones that started Islam. They are the first guys that called for Islam, preached for Islam, or they're old people. So they're humble and respected. The second are Muslims that everybody benefits from them. For example, they are the ones that work for the whole community, like the lawyers, not the lawyers, the governors, like the scholars, like the ones that keep on benefiting for everybody. There are the ones that work for the whole community. The third category, the ones that stand in the barriers, that protect the barriers from anybody attacking the whole state or the whole land. Now what are we talking about? Just let us just, so that we can understand what we're talking about. We're talking about the money that is paid in an Islamic state, according to the Islamic law, so that everybody can understand what we're talking about. Because the Sheikh wrote this whole book to the governor to the Sultan in his days, and he's trying to show him how to deal with everything. It's called السياسة الشرعية في إصلاح الراعي والرعية. The good of to improve the governor and the governed people. If this translation is proper, because the official strategy, because siyasa here means strategy, doesn't mean diplomatic. Diplomatic, it's part of siyasa, but here he means the official strategy to improve the governor and the see? So he's the main problem in our communities or our governments is that we are not following the Islamic way to in everything, the Islamic law, the Islamic strategy, the Islamic background, and think that we have to implement or we have to imitate all other people, and we forget that we have our laws, we have our ways to improve ourselves. Okay? The last category are the needies. The last category are the needies that Sheikh is mentioning here. that عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. وإذا حصل من هؤلاء بريء وإلا أعطى وإذا عرفنا أن العطاء يكون بحسب منفعة الرجل وبحسب حاجته في مال المصالح وبحسب الصدقات أيضا، فما زاد على ذلك لا يستحق الرجل إلا كما يستحق نظراؤه، مثل أن يكون شريكا في غنيمة أو ميراث. Says has his own payments, and he says, okay, I don't want anything from the government, I have my own payments, so okay, that's very good. But if he still needs, we give him according to what he needs. We don't give him more than what he needs, and we give him according to what would make him benefit from what he has, because the money is paid for all these guys according to what they work and what they do. Now, so sorry to say that we find in our countries, subhanallah, in the West, you find that they're following these kinds of strategies more than what we have in our Muslim countries, or our Muslim countries that don't practice Islam, so sorry to say. So you find that we have a lot of corruption and a lot of problems, and payments that go to things that don't deserve, and people who take more than what they work, and others that work so hard but they don't take their payments, and others that are prevented from their own payments that they have according to the Islamic law, but they don't get paid for that. So there is a corruption in these things which has to be fixed. فصل في وجوه صرف الأموال. the things or the faces of paying these payments. It says لا يجوز ولا يجوز الإمام أن يعطي أحدا مالا يستحقه ما لا يستحقه لهوى نفسه. No. Or the leader is not allowed to give any payments to somebody who doesn't deserve that payments because of his desires. He likes those guys. They are part of his party. They are his supporters, so he gives them money more. Or he has his son, so he wants him to be employed, and he doesn't care about that post. Does it fit his son or it doesn't fit, or his cousin or his brother or whatever? من قرابة بينهما أو مودة ونحو ذلك فضلا أن يعطوا لأجل منفعة محرمة منه كعطية المخنثين من الصبيان المردان الأحرار والمماليك ونحوهم من البغايا والمغنين والمساخر ونحو ذلك أو إعطاء العرافين من الكهان والمنجين. To give people who are proper people. So it's more and more forbidden when you give these money to some people that you benefit from because you are not proper. For example, you are a homosexual, so you keep on giving. Sorry to say this is what the Sheikh said. I'm not talking about a specific person. I'm talking in general. Somebody who is homosexual, for example, so he keeps on giving money for the boys, the children, the homosexual people, that he practices these nasty acts with them. Or somebody who is corrupted, so he keeps on paying payments for the girls, the prostitutes, that he goes with them, and he wants to spread this nasty act, or he benefits from the money from these houses that have prostitution, or these bars of how do you call them? Bars, not bars. The places where people keep on drinking, and the casinos and stuff like that. So all these payments are haram, are forbidden, and he's going to be asked about that in the judgment day, subhanAllah. And these sorcerers, magic people, and people who keep on claiming that they know the future, stuff like that. All of this is haram, very haram, not only haram, it's very haram, subhanAllah. لكن يجوز بل يجب الإعطاء لتأليف من يحتاج إلى تأليف قلبه. Permissible to give money, not permissible, he says, more than permissible. He says, it's permissible? No, it is obligatory to give money to some people that you feel that you have to soften their hearts so they would be close to Muslims. وإن كان هو لا يحل له أخذ ذلك. If we don't give him money, he's going to cause us a lot of problem. So we give him money to just make him just stop. It is haram for him to take that money because he took it with his nasty acts. We are just trying to we're just trying to decrease his nasty acts. So he's not allowed to take it, but we are allowed to pay it. This is very important. You have to pay attention to this. Sometimes, wait a second, please. Now. Situations that you are allowed to pay for it, but the one that asks, for example, let me tell you something. Somebody wants to take from you a big payment that he doesn't deserve. So you corrupt him. You say, look, I'll give you for your benefit some money, and let's decrease these payments. Are you allowed to do that? Yes, you're allowed to do that because those payments are unfair. But he's not allowed to take those payments. It's for him haram. But for you, you are allowed because you're pushing a big evil with a less evil. So this is a very important This is a very important law, and look what they say. They call it here. إن الشريعة جاءت بتعطيل المفاسد أو تقليلها ولتحصيل المصالح وتكميلها إذا لم يمكن تكميلها. A very important law. That the Sharia came to stop all evil things and all things that are how am I going to say, that are nasty and bad and not good. But if we can't stop it, at least we make it decreased, less than it was going to be. This is the Sharia. This is what the Sharia makes an effort to do. And the Sharia comes to make all beneficial things complete. But if it can't make it complete, at least it tries to make it increase. Did you get this law? This law is very important. Please, did you get this law? This is, are you with me, guys? Do you hear my voice? Are you with me? That's the word. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. And the government just gives them money to just stop his bad acts or his nasty acts. He says, كما أباح الله تعالى في القرآن العطاء للمؤلفة قلوبهم من الصدقات وكما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعطي المؤلفة قلوبهم من الفيء ونحوه وهم السادة المطاعون في عشائرهم كما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعطي الأقرع بن حابس سيد بني تيم. The tribes in his days. Aqra ibn Habis was the leader of Banu Tamim. Uyayna ibn Hisn of Bani Fazara. Banu Fazara, he was not only Banu Fazara, he was actually the leader of all Ghatafan. And he was called Al-Ahmaq al-Muta'. Al-Ahmaq al-Muta' means crazy one that is obeyed. Everybody obeys him, although he's crazy. And he keeps on entering battles, crazy battles. And he gave Zaydul Khair, At-Ta'i, Sayyidu Bani Nabhan. And Nabhan is a branch of Tai'. Tai' is a big tribe until now. It goes from northern Arabia until Iraq. And it passes to the desert of Syria. So all that, it's a big tribe. That tribe, Zaydul Khair, actually Zaydul Khair was one of the best amongst all these guys that we just mentioned. And Alqamah ibn Allatha al-Amiri, leader of Banu Kilab. And like the leaders of Quraysh, that when the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca, he gave all of them hundreds of camels that made them all later on convert Islam and be pleased to be Muslims, like Safwan ibn Umayyah and Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl and Abu Sufyan ibn Harb and Suhayb ibn Amr and Harith ibn Hisham. Most of them became real Muslims, that when the Prophet ﷺ wanted to give them money, they said, that's enough. Now we are Muslims from our heart. We don't need to be paid to become Muslims. SubhanAllah. When the Prophet ﷺ gave these guys, the Ansar, these guys, and our swords are still leaking from their blood. And instead of giving us that we suffered and we fought and we struggled for conquering Mecca, he's giving these guys who are part of his, subhanAllah, yani, that wasn't a good word to say, but the Prophet ﷺ told them that I know that you said that because you love me and you like me, and I won't blame you for that. And you know the story that happened after the conquer after the battle Awtas, or Hawazin. It's called Hawazin. غزوة Hunayn. غزوة Hunayn. It's called Hunayn, Awtas, Hawazin. Names. And when the Prophet ﷺ distributed the beauties of that battle, many of the Ansar were so sorry. They felt that the Prophet ﷺ forgot them. But the Prophet ﷺ gave them a beautiful speech that all of them started crying and sharing tears. And in the end they said, Radina billahi wa rasulih. We are pleased by Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said to them, don't you want people to go with the animals and booties, and you go with Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So subhanallah, that was a very emotional speech. And he told them that I only give them the money to make them soften and to grab them to Islam. And when he was distributing the money, a very fanatic, between brackets, fanatic person came with a big beard, harsh, curly beard, and his cheeks were like this, high, side, and his forehead was coming out, and his hair was all shaved. And he came and said, Ittaqillah ya Muhammad, fear Allah, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so angry. He said, who will obey Allah if I disobeyed Him? Does Allah trust me in the heavens and you don't trust me in the land? So the guy just went away, and one of the Sahaba, I think Khalid bin Walid, said, let me chop his head, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this guy, no, he prays, and I'm ordered to not kill the people who pray. But this guy, people are going to come after him that recite the Quran, that doesn't pass their throats. They kill the people of Islam, and they leave the pagans. They pass from Islam like the arrow passes from any piece of meat that passes, and you don't find anything after that. If I meet those guys, I will kill them as the people of Ad. And later on, they were the Khawarij that appeared in the days of Ali radiallahu ta'ala. These guys, the Khawarij that appeared in the days of Ali radiallahu anhu, and they caused Muslims a lot of problems. You know those stories. And Ali later on killed them, especially in the battle of Nahrawan. And he was pleased to kill them because he said that the Prophet ﷺ promised me that I'm going to kill them. And there are lots of narrations that said that the one who is going to kill them, he has a big reward from Allah. And they are the worstest people to be killed under the heavens. Muslims a lot of problems because they, instead of fighting for the benefit of Islam, they fight the Muslims and they kill their brothers and they destroy all the works that their brothers did. So they caused Muslims, since they appeared, lots of problems. Thousands of liters of blood was leaked because of those guys. And they never did anything beneficial for Islam. Just fighting and killing themselves. They were brave. They were harsh in their fighting. They didn't have any mercy in their battles. But instead of fighting on the right path, they were fighting on the wrong path. They say are still suffering from these kinds of mentalities until today. طيب. وعن رافع بن خديج رضي الله عنه قال: أعطى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أبا سفيان بن حرب وصفوان بن أمية وعيينة بن حصن والأقرع بن حابس كل إنسان منهم 100 من الإبل، وأعطى عباس بن مرداس دون ذلك. فقال عباس بن مرداس: أتجعل نهبي ونهب العبيد بين عيينة والأقرع في المجمع وما كانت دون امرئ منهما ومن تخفض اليوم لا يرفع. قال فأتم له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 100. والعبيد اسم فرس له. أتجعل نهبي ونهب العبيد بين عيينة والأقرع. Okay, he says here that Rafi ibn Khadij that the Prophet ﷺ gave Abu Sufyan and Safwan and Uyayna and Aqra, every one of them, he gave them 100 camel. Sulaym. Abbas ibn Bardaz is the leader of Banu Sulaym. It's a tribe nowadays in Hijaz, and it emigrated to Egypt until Morocco, and there were lots of families that are referred to this family, and a lot of tribes, Arabic tribes in Morocco and in Egypt and in all northern Africa from this tribe, Banu Sulaym. And even in Andalusia. So he said, well, he was so upset. He said, how come you gave all those guys 100 camels and you gave me less than them? And all their fathers are not better than my father. And nowadays will never come up later on. So the Prophet ﷺ gave him 100 camel like he gave the others. From the beloved Prophet ﷺ to make these leaders follow Islam and make their followers follow Islam, and that's what happened. Now, when these guys converted Islam, all their tribes converted Islam too, and that was a very good strategy to make less enemies. This is a very important thing. No matter you are in a community in the West or inside your country or wherever you are, or you are a leader or a governor or a president or a king, never make everybody your enemy. Even, for example, you're fighting against a group of people. Don't make everybody your enemy. You're arguing, for example, with a group, and you want people to, let me tell you, for example, you're against atheists. Try to make believers like Jews or Christians support you, because now you're against atheists and you want to prove that God exists. So don't go and make all of them against you so that you cannot hand the situation. Or, for example, you're against Jews, for example. Try to make Christians with you, because Christians were abused in this way from Jews, for example. In a country that they want Muslims not, that they're preventing Muslims from slaughtering, for example, rams. And Jews slaughter rams too. So try to make Jews support you. Or you're in a country that try to make less enemies as long as you can do that. Okay? Choosing the less okay? So this is a very important strategy that our beloved Prophet ﷺ used to do in his life. وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةُ قُلُوبُهُمْ نَوْعَانِ كافر مسلم. فالكافر إما أن يرجى عطيته ومنفعته كإسلامه أو دفع مضرته إذا لم يندفع إلا بذلك. والمسلم المطاع يرجى بعطيته المنفعة أيضا كحسن إسلامه أو إسلام نظيره أو جباية المال ممن لا يعطيه إلا لخوف أو لنكاية العدو أو كف ضرره على المسلمين. وهذا النوع من العطاء وإن كان ظاهره إعطاء الرؤساء وترك الضعفاء كما يفعل الملوك فالأعمال بالنيات. فإذا كان القصد بذلك مصلحة الدين وأهله كان من جنس عطاء النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وخلفائه. وإن كان المقصود العلو في الأرض والفساد كان من جنس عطاء فرعون. It says here, look, there are two kinds. Some of them are not Muslims and others are Muslims but weak Muslims. So the non-Muslim, you're giving him so that he would love Islam and convert Islam. Or at least you want to if that doesn't happen except by paying some payments. He's a leader. For example, he's a leader of a tribe, a head of a party, somebody that everybody listens to him. So you give him to improve his Islam because he's weak in Islam, or else you wouldn't have to pay him if he's good in Islam. You didn't give him unless except because he's weak in Islam. The leader, and if you don't give him, his tribe won't pay the payments that you need. You want him to take the payments from all his tribe. So you give him so that he can go and get the money from the tribe. This is in case, look, not always. There are some things that you have to, you are obliged to do because you're weak. But when you're strong, you don't need these things to do. Now we're talking about some cases that the Muslim leader or something like that is weak. And this, if you understand these strategies, you can do them anywhere you are, even in your house with your children. Sometimes you need to give them things. Your children, your own children, you need to give them money, give them gifts to pray, to stop doing some acts, etc. You're just giving them. For example, you say, "Oh, my son, if you memorize so and so from the Quran, I'll give you so and so." You know, in the beginning you give them, but later on they become happy and satisfied with what they did, and then you don't have to pay them anymore. But in the beginning, you need these kinds of acts to do, like what the Prophet ﷺ did with the leaders of the tribes. In the end, they became Muslims, and they became part of the whole that's it. They didn't have any more to pay them. As if you are corrupting leaders and giving them because they're leaders. And this is what the wrong that don't follow the unjust kings do. They give the leaders and they leave the followers. He says you're not doing that with the same intention that the kings are doing. You're doing it. Now, if he's speaking with a just king, for example, or just leader. And so it says if he does that with a nasty intention, he's going to be like Pharaoh, and who gives people to follow him, and he doesn't care about anything else. So that it is either doing what the Prophet ﷺ did, so you are one of the Prophet ﷺ's followers, or you are doing what Pharaoh is doing, so you are doing like you are one of the followers of Pharaoh. Fasted. Okay, who is against these kinds of practices and says, no, this is haram, you're not allowed to do that, you're corrupting people? He says the people who have a false religion, a religion that they think that they're practicing it properly, but they're practicing a false religion, like the Khawarij. He says like Dhul Khuwaysira and he used to understand things wrong. And that's why the Khawarij were his followers later on. People who went against Ali radiallahu anhu, and they accused Ali that he is against what the orders of the Quran. Subhanallah, those ignorant guys accuse Ali to be against the orders of the Quran. They said, okay, why did he fight against the groups and he didn't take their women and their children as booties? Subhanallah, they are Muslims. How can he take them as booties? So subhanallah, look at this false understanding. That's why these are astray people. And you find, subhanallah, the same things until nowadays. And this causes Muslims a lot of problems in their communities and even wherever they are. You find these kinds of people who have these fanatic opinions that are all wrong. And they cause Muslims a lot of problems. They don't follow scholars. They don't understand properly. They don't study. They just have blocked minds. And then just say, well, this is Quran, this is Sunnah, this is Sharia. And they don't even understand anything. If they studied this small book, they wouldn't say what they said. He says these kinds of people, the Prophet ﷺ ordered us to kill them. I mean, he ordered the governors, the leaders of Muslims, because they have a false Islam, a false religion that doesn't benefit in this life nor in the hereafter. They are corrupted. That's it. You can't fix them anymore. And many times, look at this beautiful word. وَكَثِيرًا مَا يَشْتَبِهُ الْوَرَعُ الْفَاسِدِ بِالْجُبْنِ وَالْبُخْلِ فَإِنَّ كِلَاهُمَا فِيهِ تَرْكٌ. تعالى بترك ما يؤمر به من الجهاد والنفقة جبنا وبخلا. وقد قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم شر ما في المرء شح هالع وجبن خالع. People confuse between two things. Between a false fear of claiming that you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with being unbrave. Why? Or with being mazer, that you don't want to pay. So you say, no, I don't want to pay things, this is haram, this is not. No, you don't want to pay because it's haram, because you're mazer, you don't want to pay. So you just put it in an image, a religious image. Or you don't want to do some Islamic acts. You don't want to defend Islam. You don't want to go and stop and say and do things because you're afraid. You're a chicken. And instead of being brave, you just say, no, this is haram. I can do things that are haram, so I don't want to do that. Like the guy that, when the Prophet ﷺ asked him to go with him and fight against the Romans, he said, well, Messenger of Allah, he was a hypocrite. And people know that I love girls, so when I'm going to see the beautiful Roman girls, I might get tried, and I will follow them, and I'll lose my religion. So I don't want to go to that battle anymore. SubhanAllah al-Azim. You don't want to go to the battle, defend Islam, because you're afraid to love beautiful Roman girls. What's this? This is so funny. So he just made it like that, or else actually he doesn't want to go to fight. He's afraid. So this happens with a lot of religious people. Instead of being brave, they can't say that we're not brave, so they just cover it with a religious meaning. And this, the Prophet ﷺ says here that the worst thing in a human being is to be so mazer that he's afraid to pay, or so unbrave. How do you say unbrave in a word? One word. Somebody who is unbrave. Somebody's and be so coward that you don't do anything. So these are two things that are very nasty in the human being. But many religious people have these things, but they cover them by religious meaning. Claiming that they're not doing that because they are afraid of Allah, they're fearing Allah, they're so pious. And actually they're not pious. They're arrogant and they want to be higher than others. The Prophet ﷺ says that acts are by intentions. And this is a very wide word. Or spirit to the acts. It's like the soul and spirit for the body. It says وَإِلَّا فَكُلُّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنَ السَّاجِدِ اللَّهِ وَالسَّاجِدِ الشَّمْسِ وَالْقَمَرِ قَدْ وَضَعَ جَبَهَهُ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. Anybody who prostrates to Allah or to the idol, he's prostrating. What differentiates between them is the intention. That means they ask each other and they advise each other to be patient and they advise each other to be merciful. The Prophet ﷺ says, أفضل الإيمان السماحة والصبر. Best believe is to be tolerant and patience. So you can't guide people in a good strategy except if you pay money. You have to pay. And you have to be brave. Or else without being paid, mazer and coward, you won't rule anybody in a proper way. وَلَا يَصْلُحُ الدِّينُ وَالدُّنْيَا إِلَّا بِذَلِكَ. The right path if you don't pay and you're not brave. وَلِهَذَا كَانَ لَا يَقُومُ إِلَّا بِهِمَا. Never stand except by payments and having brave people who know when to take the right the right how do you say qarar, the right right in the right place. Okay? Give it to anybody else. If you're not neat in these things and you don't know how to pay and how to act. And subhanAllah, he mentioned a lot of verses here. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله ثقلتم إلى الأرض. In jihad and stuff like that. ها أنتم هؤلاء تدعون لتنفقوا في سبيل الله. Verses that have to do with being brave and paying your payments. So all these verses that condemn being coward, verses condemn being like Surah At-Tawbah, verse 34, Tawbah 41, all Tawbah and Ali Imran and Al-Anfal, all these. And this is a lot in the Holy Book and in the Sunnah. And this is what all people in the world agree about. All people agree about. There is no states that can stand without payments and without brave people and people who take the right decision in the right time. And Arabs used to say, لا فارس الخيل ولا وجه العرب. Say that somebody is, he's not a good knight, nor he has an Arabic face. That means brave and he knows how to deal with people. It says here, but people here have three categories. They separate to three categories. Some want to be arrogant and higher than everybody, so they don't look at what's in the hereafter. They just go killing or taking money from people without any good strategy, and just the main thing that they want is to rule people and they don't care about anything. They don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some fear Allah, and they have religion that prevents them from doing all nasty acts and from being unfair with people. Rule, and they don't have good decisions, so their enemies gain on them because they don't know how to rule and they don't know how to have good strategies. The third category is the middle ummah and the balanced people, who are the people on the right path of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his successors, and these are the ones who follow the real sunnah, not the sunnah that they Allah, that they do the good things, and the life and the hereafter, and ruling people will not go except with this kind of strategy. And this guy is the one that gives people when they need, and he doesn't eat except what is official, what is halal, and he doesn't take more than what he deserves, and he fixes people by their religion and what they need in their religion. And هذا الذي قررناه ذكرناه في الرزق والعطاء هو السخاء وبذل المنافع نظيره في الصبر والغضب الذي هو الشجاعة ودفع المضار. People are three categories here. People who become so angry because of themselves, not people who get angry for themselves and not for their Lord, and people who get angry for themselves and for their Lord, and people who get angry for only their Lord, not for themselves. These are the balanced ones. And that's the Prophet ﷺ would never revenge against anybody for his benefit. He revenges only if something that Allah orders us to do gets not fulfilled. Alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, jazakumullahu khaira. Are the brothers with me? Yes. Okay, today people come together with homosexuals to fight against other things like racism. Would this fit in the example of with Christian against atheists? Difficult to answer, because you have to balance things, because it's not good to say that homosexuals supported Muslims or supported it's not good. So if you say Jews supported Muslims, it's not bad, or Christians supported Muslims, not bad, but homosexuals supported Muslims, no, that's not good. I don't think it's a good example to deal with. Muslims by each other can decide. The main idea is, because we don't have one answer for every